Hi, I'm Bucky Brooks. Welcome to the Bucky Brooks Show. And today we're breaking down all things Fernando Mendoza based on his pro day workout at IU. Today, I spend most of my time in NFL Network studios watching Fernando Mendoza throw to 9 players on the national championship Hoosiers team. And this was basically a showcase event for the presumptive number 1 overall pick. In fact, if you go to FanDuel Sportsbook, Fernando Mendoza is minus 20,000 to be the number 1 overall pick. Let's kind of count him as being a lock to do that. But before we can lock him in and say that he is going to be the number 1 overall pick for the Las Vegas Raiders, we needed to see him show up and show out at his pro day. And needless to say that the soon to be number 1 overall pick checked off all the boxes in terms of what you're looking for in a classic quarterback, a quarterback who is the best in this class. More importantly, a quarterback that we expect to be a franchise quarterback for the Raiders for a long time. When we started the day, it was really important just to kind of see where Fernando Mendoza is in terms of his height and weight and those things. Came in right around 6'5", 238 pounds. And I would say the impressive part watching him walk in, physically, he looks the part, meaning lower body, everything well put together. You can tell that he has been working. When we talked to him immediately after the workout, he talked about he took a week and a half off after the championship game, and then he's been slowly building his body up and refining the final parts of his game to be ready not for his pro day, but to be the best player and quarterback that he could be in September. When you watched him move around, he looked like he's been running, he's lifting, he looked leaner. He really looked good. And one of the things that we talk about as a franchise quarterback from a scouting standpoint is, do they look the part? Do you feel their presence when they walk in the room? I'll say this, and I have been one of the ones who's talked about Fernando Mendoza, not necessarily of him being an elite prospect. I've talked about him being a really, really good prospect, someone that maybe not the typical number 1 overall prospect, but someone who is worthy of being QB1 in this draft class and one of the top 5 to 10 picks in this draft. Now, because of the landscape, because the team at the top needs a quarterback, he's going to be number 1 overall, and there's nothing that you can say to dispute that. When you stack him up against the others in the class, head and shoulders above those other guys in terms of performance, in terms of production, in terms of all the things that really matter when evaluating the position. Fernando Mendoza has been a guy that started at Cal. He has 35 starts under his belt. He has a 25-10 record. He led a team to a 16-0 record his one season on the job. And over the course of that season, he got better and better. Think about 41 touchdowns, only 5 or 6 interceptions in the red zone, 27 touchdowns, no turnovers, no interceptions. He was phenomenal for a team that was the best in the land. The thing about Fernando coming in to the pro day and the questions that you have about him in the pre-draft process, the team was so good, even though we didn't expect him to be this good. The team was so good that he played more of a managerial role than a playmaker role, meaning that he was a pass-first point guard. He got the ball to the playmakers. He didn't turn the ball over. And then when there were plays that were there to be made, he made them, but he was not someone who was lighting up the stat sheet each and every week. And the team was not successful necessarily because of all the heroics that he did on the strength of his right arm, but it was more of a team where the team played together. The running game complemented the passing game, which complemented the defense and the special teams, and they out-executed their opponents, and that's why they were 16-0 and the national champs. The problem that you have when you're doing an evaluation of quarterbacks, we are so used to quarterbacks having to go above and beyond to be franchise quarterbacks at the collegiate level to win. Unless they're playing with a bunch of 5-stars, we expect them to kind of be superheroes that can put the team on their back and make these things happen. When we dig into Fernando Mendoza's past, he was a 2-star recruit who had to kind of get it out the mud, found his way to Cal after he couldn't walk on at Miami. He goes to Cal, spends 3 years there, graduates quickly, has an opportunity to be the starting quarterback. He matches Aaron Rodgers' record for career games with 250 or more passing yards. He then makes his way to Indiana, and in the 1 year Indiana, He dominates the college game, and he walks away as the Heisman Trophy winner. When you have that kind of story and you have those kind of accolades as an evaluator, man, you fall in love with the story because you fall in love with someone who had to face adversity, he's had to overcome the adversity, and he's come through it on the other side while also showing the football world that he not only has the tools and the talent to play at the next level, but he has the intangible qualities, he has the toughness, he has the clutch factor that you look for. And all of those things in a quarterback in particular are more critical than the talent that they bring to the field. Well, today it was a showcase of all those physical traits that you look for. To be fair, it is one that everyone should be able to knock this out the park. This is like going to the driving range with a small bucket of balls. You should be able to knock it in the fairway. There's no pressure. There's nothing that should prevent you from having a great round on the range. You know your receivers. You've worked over the script. You have about 50 throws to complete. We should be able to do this. It should be simple. What I like about this in watching Fernando is he killed it. It was easy for him. We saw him throw a variety of throws, hitches and slants. We saw deep outs. We saw deep overs, post routes. We saw things under center and in the gun. We saw routes that worked inside the numbers, which really wasn't a big part of his game during the regular season. We saw him get out the pocket and get on the move, throw comebacks and those things. And every time he ran through one of those plays, you simply would take your pen and check off the box. Fernando checked off the boxes in terms of the type of thrower he is, the type of athlete he is within the pocket, and the type of playmaker he could be within this system, the Gary Kubiak system, which has been known to take average players and make them Pro Bowlers, and Pro Bowlers, it can transform them into MVPs. Today, in throwing to Omar Cooper and Elijah Sarat and some of his other players, we saw him display I would say, not only the arm talent, but the arm strength that sometimes you can't fully assess when you're watching them play on the tube or on tape. What I could watch and what I could gather from watching him, man, he drives and throws the ball with plenty of pace, plenty of velocity. And talking to one of my colleagues that are on field location, he talked about, man, the ball had plenty of zip. You could hear it. You could feel it. You could feel the velocity as it whizzed through your ears going to the intended target. The other part that you could feel is you could feel the superb timing and ball placement. All those things were there. When we talk about ball placement, it's really important that quarterbacks in the National Football League in particular, they hit the receivers in the strike zone. As a young player, when I entered the league, they talked about the quarterback gets paid. Back then, it was $20 million. Now we're talking about $60 million. They get paid to put the ball in the mailbox. The ball has to be in the right spot. The quarterback should be able to throw the receiver away from trouble. He should be able to tell the receiver which way to turn based on which shoulder he puts it on and how much pace he puts on it. Watching Fernando, I saw all those things. I saw him put it on the strike zone. I saw him put it on the outside shoulder when he needed to. I saw him put it on the inside shoulder when he needed to. He had great anticipation, even though there's not a defense on the field, but he let the ball go when he understood how to adjust the release to the speed of the receiver that he was throwing to. So the way that he threw it to Omar Cooper was different than the way that he threw to Elijah Sarat. And that's great because the league is like that, where you have different types of wide receivers. We compile most wide receiver cores like a basketball team. So you have big guys, small guys, fast guys, lumberers, but all of them work within the context of the team. And watching Mendoza work with so many different types, running backs, H-backs, he was able to dial it back based on his personnel. And to me, that's exactly what a quarterback should do and how he should operate. So physically, he did everything. I would say even pushing the ball down the field, he had a few wobblers or ducks that weren't necessarily the cleanest throws that he would like to make, but he has more than enough arm strength to make people defend the entire field. That was important. That'll continue to be important as we move forward in this process, but it was only a small part of the picture that you want to get from a pro day. And looking at this pro day and the way it was structured, Jake Heaps is the quarterback guru. Jake Heaps is the guy that kind of trains him, and he's trained Russell Wilson for a long time. Jake and I go all the way back to doing the Nike Elite 11 tour where we work together, and I got a chance to see him work and hear his instruction and the way that he tutors young people, and he did a real good job. a really good job with Mendoza. As a former scout, I am always looking for outstanding people to add to my team. And I'm looking for the people that have the qualities that can not only excel in the role, but they uplift the entire team. If you're hiring and you want a candidate who's passionate about your role, but you can't get that insight from a resume unless you post your job on ZipRecruiter. Now you can try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology finds candidates quickly, and ZipRecruiter has a new feature that shows you the most interested, qualified candidates first, so you meet the right people faster. Candidates can tell you in their own words why they're interested in the job. No wonder ZipRecruiter is the #1 rated hiring site based on G2. Find candidates who really want your job on ZipRecruiter. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/audio. That's ziprecruiter.com/audio. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. When I look at Mendoza's footwork, especially when he was operating under center, didn't skip a beat. Looked like he'd been doing it for a long time. The way that he quickly set up, got in rhythm, threw from a balanced platform, showed the footwork and the finish that you want to see from a thrower, all those things, high marks. And in fact, I would say there was a noticeable improvement from when we saw him last, the championship game, to when we saw him today at the Pro Day. Continue to improve when it comes to mechanics and those things. And I think that's really important because as more people are beginning to talk about, I would say maybe his closest competition, Ty Simpson, the thing that they talk about with Ty Simpson is, man, no one has cleaner footwork within the pocket. Mendoza today, footwork is really clean. That's a really big check mark in the win column for him because it shows that not only is he coachable, but he can make the corrections immediately. And as we get into the league, it's about adapting, adjusting, and finding ways to be at your best when your best is required. And a lot of that is through maintaining a growth mindset and being able to take the instruction, carry it out, and make the changes so it leads to better execution. Mendoza did that. And watching like the Raiders continue, because there was a lot of Raiders there, man. There may have been 10 guys from the Raiders organization that were in the building, including John Spatek, general manager, Clint Kubiak, the head coach. They were in the building to look at what Mendoza could do, but also to begin to imagine what he could do within this offense. Now, let me talk about this offense, the Kubiak system that we rave about, which is an extension of the Shanahan system, which is an extension of what Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan have been able to do successfully, which go all the way back to when Gary Kubiak and Mike Shanahan were doing it with the Denver Broncos back in the late 90s when I was still a player, and you couldn't stop the Broncos because everything was so coordinated between the run game and the pass game. You had a high-end quarterback in John Elway. You had receivers that were solid, and it worked. And watching Mendoza at his performance and projecting how it could play out for the Raiders, I think you have to be really excited. You have to be really excited if the Raiders about what is to come, what is about to lead your franchise, given the natural fit between the player and the scheme. And Mendoza is we talked about a prototypical classic drop back quarterback, but he has enough athleticism to get on the perimeter. And when he gets on the perimeter, his eyes are up because he wants to throw it more so than run it. In this Gary Kubiak system that we're talking about the Raiders playing, it's a lot of stretch to the front side, bootleg out the back door. It's a lot of play action, hand it to the runner, fake hand it to the runner, stand in the pocket deep, take deeper shots down the field. When I look at Mendoza's game, people always point to, oh, he did all these RPOs and those things. And that's true. But he also did some other things, and we have to give him credit for the other things that he's been able to do. And in Indiana, we saw more quick rhythm throws. We saw some isolation throws where he hit the back shoulder down the field. Continue to do those things. Those things are big because you're going to get in a game and you're going to have to make those throws regardless of how much too high safety stuff that we're getting. You can always throw the back shoulder fade against that. So that works. When it comes to watching Clint Kubiak build an offense and a scheme around Sam Darnold, there's some similarities that we can take from that in terms of what Sam Darnold did, particularly on third down. Hitches, slants, quick ends, banging them in there, those end-breaking routes, on time, on target, all of those things. Well, Kubiak can add to that to make sure that his game and the things that he believes in as a play designer work well with what Mendoza sees. After the positive experience with Sam Darnold, he's probably even more emboldened to sit with the quarterback and try and figure out how they can collaboratively come up with an offense that works for the player, QB1, and the rest of the team. When I think about what the Raiders are going to do or what they need to do to make this work, it's not only the system, because we can always talk about the plays. It's about the players. And the Raiders have the players, but more the players on defense and offense. You think about all the people they signed in the course of the offseason, Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker, being able to get younger and leaner and fitter in that regard, being able to just put it all together where you have Max Crosby come back and he adds a disruptive element to a front line that was already going to be kind of salty. So you like that part of it that's in place with the Raiders. Offensively, you worry because Kubiak leaves a situation where you had Seattle, you just had, just a plethora of weapons and options to be able to hand the ball to, throw the ball to, get it to, got to have it down, so I don't want to go, all that stuff. The Raiders, you don't. You have Brian Bowers, you have Ashton Genty, you don't have a number one receiver, you have questions at your offensive line, and you just wonder, how are we going to fix this? Here's what I'll say about it. Most teams always think about their offense in terms of the triplets. Can we get a quarterback, a running back, and a wide receiver? Well, if Mendoza is your quarterback, you have the quarterback, you got the running back in Ashton Genty, who flashed last year, and you have the wide receiver in Bowers, who, Darnold took the league by storm. If you add another piece, and I think they'll get another wide receiver somewhere early, second round, third round, I would anticipate a wide receiver coming over, or they'll shop at the bargain basement bin and find a veteran that can come and make a key contribution. But regardless, they have to find someone that can occupy that number one receiver role to allow the other guys, Bowers and Genty, to get loose, playing the way that they want to play. Offensive line has to be fixed, and luckily you have plenty of picks to be able to fix this offensive line and to find a way to protect whoever is going to play quarterback. But we're going to say Fernando Mendoza is going to play quarterback. Because if we're able to protect it, we're able to run it, we have enough weapons on the outside, this offense can strike like a match and catch on like wildfire. And when we talk about the system of plays, where you have an impeccable, terrific play designer in Kubiak, we're talking about being able to elevate the play of the quarterback. Now, look, you can make me pinch myself, but I've seen this movie before. And I saw this movie before way back when Matt Schaub was the quarterback for the Houston Texans. Clint Kubiak's dad, Gary Kubiak, was the offensive guru and head coach. And lo and behold, Matt Schaub, two-time Pro Bowler, and won a lot of games. I'm not saying that Clint will surpass his dad, but I am saying that he has seen how this system can advance a young player's game and give them a chance to play at a high level. I am rolling the dice and saying I'm all in on that when it comes to the Raiders, putting Kubiak in the building and giving him a young quarterback with the traits that will succeed. We have another month before we officially see that pairing and that matchup, and there'll be some things that Mendoza needs to do to kind of clean up and cement his status. One, he's going to have to visit them. He has to make sure that the visit goes clean. If they do request a private workout, he has to kind of show up in shape, continue to do the things that made him great. And then finally, it's just a matter of like having everyone kind of believe that it can be done. If you do all those things, you can have a lot of success, and you have a lot of success that eventually will lead more players to want to come back and join the franchise that you're building back in Vegas. But now let's talk about a franchise. As we talk about IU, I want to make sure that I touch on a few more kids that caught my eye when watching the pro day performance from afar. We'll talk about the offensive guys first. Let's talk about Omar Cooper and Elijah Sarat. Both guys were solid. Omar Cooper, to me, is a solid number two receiver on the backside of a dominant number one, meaning he's just good enough to win his one-on-one matchups. He's reliable and dependable on third down. When you have to throw it into the sticks, he's going to find a way to get it done. He has some versatility in his game where he can play outside or inside. That's why all things are pointing up for Omar Cooper, even though the numbers would suggest that maybe he's a fringe first-round pick. And Elijah Sarat, the thing that you have is you don't have an explosive athlete. You don't have a dynamic athlete, but what you have is a terrific pass catcher. someone who can post him up and put defenders on his back and expand the strike zone for the quarterback and routinely come down with the difficult catch. Does it time and time again. You can book it. That's what he does. Small school standout, made his way to the big thing and made plays. I'll say, like, he's fighting for his life as a borderline day 2, day 3 player, but we're talking about 3rd round, top of 4th round. If Sarat comes off in that regard, we feel great about it. Defensively, the guy that really caught my eye is D'Angelo Pons. And the reason why is because at 5'9", 180 pounds, he ran 4.31 unofficial. That is flying. That is fast. All the people that question his speed and all that, quiet. He put that to bed. He also opened up the minds of defense coordinators that are looking for the nickel back that can come in, make plays, handle information, play as a bit of a chameleon on the edge, as a hit, run, and cover guy, as a blitz guy, as a cover guy on tight ends and wide receivers. He has all that. Size was an issue, still remains an issue, but man, the tape is so good and he is so clean that, to me, I could understand why some people would have him viewed as the best nickel in the class. He's that good. He's a day 1 player right now, and there are a lot of people that would be excited about adding the Hoosier to the lineup. So, and speaking of the lineups, we're going to do more things here on the Bucky Brooks Show as it relates to the draft, as it relates to the top players. You got some buzz on Ty Simpson that we want to make sure we tackle. I don't know if I can get another one in tomorrow, but maybe I'll be able to get a little book on Ty Simpson. After talking to some people, after doing some more tape work on Ty Simpson, we will talk about why Ty Simpson is still QB2 and why, if they're drafting purely based on merit and what someone has done with a little projection, he should be a 2nd-round pick. But we'll get to that the next time on the Bucky Brooks Show. Make sure you support our sponsor, FanDuel Sportsbook, all the cool things that they're doing when it comes to the odds and laying wagers. We want to do all that here. But the next time we come back, I think I'm going to join the Patriots later in the week and talk about what's going on with them. But the next Bucky Brooks Show, we're going to break down all things Ty Simpson and what we think about the Alabama quarterback. Until next time, I'm Bucky Brooks, and I'm out.